Well, hello everyone, and welcome. It's so wonderful to have you here today. And today I'm your host, Virginia Warren, lawyer and modern shaman, together with Bill Van Zyverden and Michael Davis, who bring you this monthly live broadcast reviewing lessons set out in the way of mastery. You can read more about us in the description below. That said, we three are here to offer you our own unique perspectives. We're three very different humans, but yet rest assured, in line with the idea that all perspectives are valid, we're not doing this broadcast to tell you how to live your life, but to play with some ideas that we all enjoy. And we thought you might enjoy them as well and participate in this bit of discussion we're having about them. So, for you that are unfamiliar with the Way of Mastery series, and let me just say, I was unfamiliar with the Way of Mastery series. Bill introduced these books to me, and I was so excited because when I read them, it's like I'm reading my own words. It was amazing. And guess what? They conveniently broke it down into 3 books and 35 fabulous lessons. I thought, wow, let's talk about this. Excitement, 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 because that is me. So, if I get a bit excited, please forgive me, but I love this stuff. So these books, as I said, are set out conveniently in lessons to discuss whether, on a deeper study of this material, the lessons offered can deliver humanity a greater meaning to our everyday lives. We know at this particular point in time, we're all going through a bit of turmoil and confusion. And this stuff was channeled back in the 90s, which I want to talk about that in a second. But it is based on very, very ancient teachings. So before I get started on my perspective, and we're going to each share our own perspectives during this broadcast and invite questions along the way. Before I get started, I want to say right off the bat that these books contain channeled works of Jeshua or Jesus. Now, I have 2 things to say about that. Firstly, the first is about channeling. Now, for me, channeling is a real thing. We all channel. And by that, I mean, when you're channeling, it's just you get these inspirations, these ideas come out of nowhere. I mean, if we think about that, where do ideas actually come from? So that's what I do believe in channeled work, but you have to, in my view, see whether that work resonates with you. So for anyone listening to this work, we say take what resonates and leave the rest behind. The second thing I'd like to say about all this is I'm not religious. I personally was dragged through every church that existed, and I have my own experience with religion. And I feel that it's a construct based in rules. You'll know my views about rules soon enough. So I am taking this work with Jesus as an idea, or Yeshua as an idea, and energy. And the way I see this life is it is all energy. And everyone's perspective is true. So if you are a person that follows Jesus and those ideas or any other religious deity, please do that. It is very, very important to be true to yourself, because this is what we're all about, is find your own truth and follow those threads for you. So what I'm saying is I'm focusing on the essence of the words in these teachings and not the form, because as a lawyer for love, I say love is of the essence in all things. So right into it. Part 1, in the way of the heart. So this is all about the journey of the heart. Now, when I first I had that idea, someone told me follow your heart. I'm like, what does that even mean? Okay, so this is like crazy, crazy good to talk to people about. We all say it. We all talk about the heart, and the heart knows, and these sorts of things. But what does that actually mean? Well, in this lesson, it says it's the way that we start out with the way that calls you home. And the first part of the lesson offers an axiom which says, nothing that you can experience is caused by anything outside of you. You experience the effects only of your choices. Now, for me, that is fundamental in all of this work. In the game of life, in fact, in the life we're playing a game, and we're making a choice every time we go, every time we take a step. But what we're doing is we're blaming other people for our choices. We're saying, yeah, I made this choice, but hang on, it didn't turn out quite the way I wanted it to, so it's got to be your fault. I couldn't have done that stuff, right? So this is and this is why we have a legal system. So I wanted to relate all this back to our legal system, because this legal system that we're in is perpetuating this idea that, oh shit, if things aren't going my way, I could go blame someone, sue them, I'll be the victim, I'll hold on to that idea. And they say in the way, this first lesson in the Way of Mastery, the principle is you are never a victim of anything in life. It's the way you choose to see it. So if you are choosing to be a victim, you are effectively holding that energy. And as this course goes on, you'll see that it is all energy, and that is science. This is all science. It's not woo-woo. You are energy, but we've been duped into this idea that we're all these separate people that have control and power over each other. And it's like, if I couldn't make a wrong choice, that must be your fault, and I am the victim here. Now, of course, when we keep perpetuating that idea, what do we keep getting? Further separation. Of course, you can't actually separate energy. You can't do that. So this is why we're feeling off or bad. We're not in the flow. We're not in life's flow. When we're in the flow, we're feeling good. So basically, this first lesson talks about that you need to come to the point where you say to yourself, I have done this to myself. I did it. I must correct it. There is no one to blame. The world is innocent. And to me, those words were magnificent, because when you are looking at things from the point of view of no one is to blame but me, you get to look at your own truth. And there's no blame to you, by the way. There's no blame to anything. These lessons teach us that nothing is good or bad. It's just the coloring you put on it. And the coloring is based in your perception of the world. And of course, everyone's perception is different. But when I say, that I'm not saying I am to blame, I'm just saying, how did I create that? That's not what I prefer. So how did I get to that point? And that's when you get to look at yourself. You get to look within at how you think about things. Because that's another beautiful thing that I used to get confused about, when people say, oh, just go within and you'll find the answers. I'm like, go within where? I didn't know where within was. So this is my idea, is like figuring out, okay, now I get it. If you stop looking out there to blame someone for your existence or the things you think are going wrong for you, you get the opportunity to stop and say, okay, what must I believe to be true for me to have this idea about that is bad, for example? Because you see, nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. I think that was Shakespeare's Hamlet. Nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And that is very true. So for example, if you're going to a restaurant or a buffet in a restaurant and you see all these beautiful foods laid out before you, and you really don't like tomatoes, for example, you don't like throw the tomato on the floor and stamp on it and squish it away. You just say, oh, that's part of that reality, this buffet. Oh, I don't want that tomato. I'm going over here where the zucchinis are. I prefer those. And that's an approach to life that I feel is great. But I have to ask myself the question, why do I hate tomatoes so much? Like, it's just it's my own view, and my own view is very true. So I think that if we can start with the position that no one is to blame for our predicament, the place we find ourselves in, then we start to appreciate what the truth is and the meaning is of our life. And we can, I like to say, play it like it's a game. Everything that comes into your reality, how am I responding to this moment? Because if I think the thing is bad, the thing is bad. I've just created that reality. It's not rocket science. It's not that hard, but it is bringing awareness to what you're thinking and how you're approaching things. So yes, that's really, then the ability to be responsible for your choices, and then to make them in love. I mean, I just have to say, this first lesson is a lovely overview, and it takes everything is in it. So it's very hard to condense it into one little bit of conversation. But my idea is no one's to blame for your choices, but you are to look at your choices as, this is my life. I'm creating this in this moment. Every choice I make creates the next step on the way. And it is not, if I decide to make that choice from a love position, a position of love, What is for the highest good of all in this moment? What fears do I hold before I make the next decision? Then I'm creating that next reality. If I say, oh, wow, check that out. Like, I don't really prefer it, but I can see an opportunity in that for me to grow. And so this is how I create my reality in that space. So that's what I sort of get from this lesson. And I really think it's a great way forward. And it does, it sits against the legal system, the system that governs this entire planet and every relationship in it, people, that which says if something is wrong, you go and blame somebody else. So what we are doing effectively is looking at the world upside down. We need to reverse our way of thinking and come back to the idea that no one is to blame, but I have to examine how I think. So that's my point of view on that one. Bill, what do you reckon?
Well, I guess when I was preparing my piece on this, I think I went back to the Celestine Prophecy. If everyone has read that book, I don't know anybody that hasn't. I can imagine everyone who is watching us has probably read it. The first thing that you begin to notice is that things in life have a movement, have a flow, and you wind up being a part of that flow. You wind up seeing that things are happening, and you begin to discover that you're part of that happening. That somehow I am the creator of that, and it's easy to say that life is just my attitude about things or how I see things, but it's more than that. It's being the creator, the projector of things, actually. So in the Celestine Prophecy, something that was mirrored in this chapter is you begin to say to yourself, "Wait a second, I've got to wake up here." And certainly, life right now in everyone's environment is screwy, and you've got to say, "Wait, I want off this merry-go-round. This is a roller coaster, and you have to accept the fact that you bought a ticket, you took the ride, and you get a chance to get off. And you can say, stop this thing, I want off." And this is not unlike teachings that have gone on thousands of years. The Tibetan Buddhist teachings of the Four Noble Truths. The first truth is understanding that life is suffering and that cause and effect created the suffering. And the way out of that suffering is taking a look at your own life. Clean up your life, and your life changes. Now, not just your life changes, but if you are, in fact, the creator, everything around you changes. Your ability to connect with things, circumstances in life, your abundance in life, friends, things that happen to you. Again, as Virginia mentioned, we are all vibrations, and the only thing that is happening here is resonance. Another thing that people have probably read or heard about was The Secret. Well, The Secret is no secret that the law of attraction has been around for eons as well. That how you think, what you eat, how you feel, you vibrate, you project, and you will attract to you like vibrations to that. So if you want to clean up your life, clean up your vibrations, and you will attract to yourself like vibrations. It's really as simple as that. I mean, this book has 35 lessons, and they're really all geared to tell you that, but it's going to do it from a whole bunch of different angles. The next chapter on creating your life looks at it a little bit more closely. But the truth of the matter is, this is all cause and effect. We live in third dimension, which is all about uh, uh, cause and effect in time. If there weren't time, the cause and effect would be simultaneous. So here we are given the chance to learn that my actions actually do create the next episode in my life, and not just the present creates the future. It creates the immediate future. So I came across this book reading other things. I know the three of us are constantly reading and listening to these types of things. You know, you really can't get enough of it. not in the fact that you'll get tired of it, but you need to keep hearing it over and over and over until it knocks you in the head and says, "Oh, now I get it." So that's what we're doing, and none of us are any more students or teachers than anybody else. We eventually get it, and that's what we're looking for. Michael.
Well, I don't know if anybody is on here that knows me, but you should know after listening to these two why I joined them. I don't know that there's two crazier lawyers on the planet, right? And and what they're speaking is so important and very maybe never heard within the legal system itself, right? So that's why I feel really lucky to be joining you two and just hearing the speaking of love. Now, when I look at this material, and I was introduced to the Way of Mastery probably 14, 15 years ago. And what resonates with me in this chat today is the concept of judgment, right? You can't find, Bill was talking about Buddhism. You can't find a spiritual tradition that values judgment. Jesus is very clear, right, in the New Testament. And yet, what does the law pride itself upon, right? We've even named our masters judges. On the civil side, we call the resolution a judgment, and we're so proud of that, right? So to me, the Way of Mastery takes these two worlds and says, hey, wait a minute, spiritual life has to live within the legal system as well. And to bridge those two worlds, I love this concept of judgment because it's so harmful in your everyday existence and so celebrated in our professional existence, right? Which I think is why the three of us thought it would be interesting to have three lawyers talk about this. But if I could, real quick, let me just read something from this first chapter that just really stuck with me. Be you therefore a wise gardener. Cultivate a deep love and respect for yourself, for you are not here to fix the world. You are not here to fix your brother or sister. It's only love that heals. And until you have loved yourself wholly, by having purified the mind of every erroneous thought you have ever held, until you have loved yourself, you do not in truth love anyone or anything. Whoa, right? So it starts at home. By the way, Virginia, if I had known that you don't like tomatoes, I'm not sure I would have agreed to do this.
Yeah, well, everyone's got their position.
That's just not right. But I mean, again, it starts at home, right? And so love yourself. Do you know very many people who do that well? I don't know that I do that well. So that's what really jumped out at me here rereading this today.
It's really interesting to point out that loving yourself, that you can only love others to the extent that you love yourself. Isn't that amazing? Certainly it builds up in you, but to the extent that you are not in love with yourself, you criticize yourself, you don't take responsibility for yourself, that limitation gets projected. You may think you're loving somebody, but it's limited. It's like crimping the garden hose and watering the garden and saying, I'm giving the garden all this water. Well, you're only giving what you're able to because you're crimping the line. So
that is beautiful. I really like that. Yeah, I do. And that is such a difficult thing for people to even say the word love. There is no definition for it in the legal system. I don't know whether you guys are familiar with the snail in the bottle case.
The what?
An English, the snail in the bottle case, Donahue and Stevenson. It's a 19, forgive me for getting the year wrong, 3226 case, where Lord Atkins said, love thy neighbor as thyself. And the love thy neighbor principle became our law of negligence, our common law of negligence. And what happened with that was, of course, the law turned that beautiful, loving statement, because Lord Atkins used to read the Bible. But he said, it was love thy neighbor as thyself. And of course, there's a couple of difficulties with that, is because people don't know what what love is. The law doesn't know what love is, and B, people can't love themselves. But what the law turned that into is, it's like, you must love me, else I will punish you. And so that's where the law got a hold of it and turned it into a fear-based idea. And it's one of my favorite things to say, because it's the only place in the common law that I know of that talks about love at all. There is no definition in the law for love. Love is the hardest word for humans to say. They can say all sorts of other expletives, but love is very, very hard to say, like, I love you or I love myself, because love is a conceited word for self. However, if love is a state of beingness and not doing, then we are able to view love as like, oh, I sit in love. I exist in this space. There is nothing for me to do. But that's the allowance of allowing love. And that's the energy hygiene, keeping your energy clean of fear, that resonance of fear. It's all that vibration.
Yeah. I wanted to touch on something Michael said about judgment. That is huge, huge, huge for this legal system. And when, at least for me, when Jesus talked about the last judgment, I don't think he was talking about entering the pearly gates and having God, thrash down his gavel and judging you. I think the last judgment is the last time you judge yourself. Once you passed that phase of the last judgment, that's when you enter the kingdom of God. When judgment limits you, judgment takes the God energy and squeezes it down to a trickle. When you
Well, you've got to
stop
measure it
judging,
against something, don't you? Judgment is measuring against something else. But what
that's
are you
right.
measuring against?
Well, that's what it is. Your past comes to haunt you. So as this course starts to talk about, you have to let everything from your past go, or else you can't go forward without judgment, because you have all these teachings. You were brought up, your hereditary, your astrology, your numerology, the friends you met, the education that you had. All of those things got stuffed into your left brain, as this course says. God is coming through with the right brain, but we keep going back to the left brain and saying, boy, I have all this stuff pushed into me. There must be something true about it. But we've got to let that go and say, everything I thought I knew could be wrong. And when you find yourself judging, you can feel it. That's the thing. My wife and I harp on this so often, that it's a feeling. It's a feeling sense, and it. It's not something you think about. It's not something you analyze. You can feel it in your gut, in your solar plexus. When you get that feeling, that's the time to pause and reevaluate.
But see,
I think the
both of
body is.
you are talking, but both of you are talking about humility, love. Maybe you're not always right. Maybe you shouldn't judge
What
others,
is?
right? There is no humility in the law, right? I mean, when I finished teaching, my primary focus ended up being on the criminal law, even though that wasn't my primary focus when I practiced. And there's nothing humble about the criminal law. It's just this gigantic weapon of force that's come up with some rules pre-science, pre the discovery of psychology, pre quantum physics. They come up, and yet no one has the guts to look afresh at this. And so I listened to you two, and I imagine if you two were on a legal commission, right, and you began to speak of, well, maybe we could look at this differently, or maybe we could get rid of fear, maybe we could lessen judgment, right? I don't think there's anybody in these halls of power that are asking questions right like that. And that's why I think a little putting these ideas out into the unconscious is so important, because that's where the change is going to come. It's not going to come from political leaders.
One thing I would like to say about that, Michael, is so true. People don't realize, and we're three lawyers, and people think, what do lawyers care? What I want to tell people is that the legal system underpins everything. You may think it has no relevance to you. I'm not in a court case. What does it mean? The law permeates every aspect of your life, and it's based in fear. So until we shift our whole idea of how we deal with human relationship from non-judgment, then we can unify. So that's what I want to say about that.
Well, you kind of have to look at, do we have any models? It's always helpful to say, is there anybody, any groups out there? And they are coming. Some of the studies that I looked at were from the Maori down here in down under, and the Lakota tribe in the Southwest. One of the things that the Pueblos looked at was everything is community based. If a member of the tribe does something harmful to another member of the tribe takes responsibility for having created that member of the tribe in order to do that. That is phenomenal way to look at it. And so not only do they take responsibility for it happening, they also take responsibility for the resolution. And the person who committed whatever act it was really has no place to look for company, for support for their actions, or to justify it or rationalize it, because everyone else is there to keep the vibrations of the tribe up.
That's exactly what I saw from shamanism, and what resonated with me, and that's what I found myself being that person. That they're shamans. It's global in Indigenous people, and we are all actually shamans. We just need to let ourselves go to find, and it's the personal rules we've created, the disintegration within ourselves, as our tribes have said, it's your fault. Don't do that. Why? We're here, I believe, on this planet to explore experience, to have these experiences. Now, this is quite complex, so I'm not going to go into it right now, but in having these experiences and really feeling them, you flow through them from that point of view. So it's about feeling your way. Most of us have disconnected from what we feel.
Yeah, and it's the identification by the law with the right brain, I mean, or the rational brain, rather the left brain, and it's just this idea that reason and logic and facts and good and bad, that those things matter. That they not only matter, but they're really the building blocks of the things that the three of us have worked with in our lives for our entire lives, right? And these building blocks were not constructed in a democratic way. The law was largely formed by elites, largely formed probably until after World War II in the States. It was primarily common law, not a lot of statutory. Now you have a lot of statutory and a lot of lobbying, a lot of words, a lot of definitions. But in the beginning, it was more based around cultural norms and that sort of thing. But whose norms, right? It's always the norms of the elite. It's always the norms of the property owners. It's always the norms of the powerful or the haves. So you're speaking of feeling, and we're talking about intuition. We're talking about shamanism. What does the shaman do? They journey to that other world to receive information for guidance, right? But
it's
here,
outside the logic.
Yeah, logic, 3D, nothing else. Mm-hmm. That's all we get here.
Yeah, well, here's a teaser too. Do we have a consensual reality, or do we have entirely individual realities? Are we a group having a group experience, or are we solely having an individual experience, and we are projecting onto the group what we see, what we create? People do out of obedience to what we have created or required them to do for us. What do you think?
Well, I see that as I call it an egregore. The legal system is an egregore based in fear. So it is an energy that exists separately, and we have projected our personal, but I like to call them internal legal systems, the rules we've personally created for ourselves and from our tribes have been projected to create another parent for us, because we thought we needed parenting. So we're out there. The parent that we look to is now controlling us. Like, I call that legal fetishism. And I think that's funny, because what we wanted to guide us is now controlling us, and it's taking our power. So I think, Bill, what you're saying is we have two separate things. We have created one reality for ourselves, colored by our own perceptions, by our own internal legal system. But we also have all created this giant egregore of energy that draws us in. If you resonate in fear, you will get sucked into it. It like sucks you right in. You just have to be engaged in a legal matter and to find out what that feels like. I certainly have been on the end of that, and it was fun. But yeah, and we can see life as fun. So I think it's both of those things, personally, from my own experiences.
Mike, what do you think?
Well, it's not going to be any fun if we agree on everything, is it? But I mean, come on, we're lawyers. That's wrong.
Yeah, come on.
But I'm pretty convinced. I do a lot of work in the neuroscience and the law area, and I'm pretty convinced that we're all caught up in in the Course in Miracles, and the Way of Mastery describes it as illusion. And another word for that, in my opinion, is just group consciousness. So I'm pretty convinced that in those first few years of birth, that basically unwired brain gets wired into a three-dimensional apparatus, and then it better learn the rules or it's not going to eat, right? We're not going to eat. And so then we're definitely projecting from inside our own head, right? But that probably doesn't start happening until well after a collective groupthink has been formed for us that we function without, in our younger years, no awareness of that, no sense of that. Many people never get an awareness of that kind of external reality that's been imposed on us, And that's why I look at the law like mind control. It's based in fear, based in punishment. Anytime there's any talk of reform on the criminal side, the first thing that comes out is, oh, our streets will be lawless, and I'll have to carry a gun to go to the grocery store. And I mean, it's really frightening. This again, mind control that's been.
It's assuming people are bad. It's assuming people are inherently bad, isn't it? But we're not inherently bad. We all just want. I believe we're fundamentally motivated. Humans are motivated to do things because they'll feel better in the doing of it. So that's why people do bad things, because it gives them relief. But under all that, of course, it's love. You're motivated to find your way back to love. Now, whatever that takes. We've got a fabulous listener here, or viewer, Elizabeth. She's that's right on target. She feels so. Thanks, Elizabeth. But yeah, we are motivated to move toward love. So, and the legal system keeps you apart from that. So yeah, law of the jungle. That's what people say. Oh, the law of the jungle will prevail if you don't have law. I say the law of the jungle exists now. What is that? It's power struggle. It's dog eat dog. Yeah, like climb to the top. Like, we are blind. We're in the dark by what's really going on out there. And I think we can see it splitting apart now, you see. And there are a couple of different realities in the collective. Some of us are moving this way and some of us are staying that way. And that's cool. It's your own journey. That's what I feel about all that.
Well, maybe it's not that at all. Maybe this is a stepping stone, a slap in the face to help us learn love, or else how would you know the difference between love and fear unless you wallowed in fear a bit? And we create these things. And the other thing that God instructs us to do is to go out and create and have fun. Now, you are just as much a creator for what you consider a good experience to what you consider a bad experience. You're still a creator, and you have created wonderfully. But you have to choose. Now we're back to choosing. Do I want more of experiences A or experiences B? And that's how you learn which ones that you want. And it actually raises your vibrations. If we look at two other sources, back to the Celestine prophecy but also what the bleep do we know, which put out a whole bunch of great science to where science is coming to spirituality to say that, we could well be on different timelines. So the idea that there's a consensual reality and an individual reality, it is possible that we could all be in the same space and not see or know of each other. In fact, I really do believe that if we were to raise our vibrations, we would see a whole lot more that's going on in our own environment than we can possibly see right now. And at that level, you have to take more responsibility for what's going on with you. But this is the time to learn by our choices. You touch the hot stove, then you get to decide: do I want to touch that again, or do I not? And it's neutral, right? It's a choice. I want more experiences where I'm not touching the hot stove. Some people want that excitement. Boy, I'm gonna be able to put my finger there for 5 minutes. Okay, your choice.
Yeah, there's no good or bad. And this is what people don't understand with choice as well. People, I think, because our whole life is about the choices, that people get overwhelmed by choice. You cannot make the wrong choice ever. You make a choice, you get an outcome. That's it. You touch the hot stove, it's hot. Good. Make another choice or make the same choice. It doesn't matter. Like you just said, it does not matter.
Well, it doesn't matter. That's the other night. Our words are so perfect at times that it isn't matter. Nothing is matter. It's all vibration, and even vibration doesn't exist at the level that we understand it. I mean, there's just so much to the mystery, but we can only deal with the environment that we're in.
But this would be a real interesting chat to be having with the judge in the courtroom right now, talking about there is no right and wrong, and that we're all one, right? And I mean, because the law says, actually your choices do matter, and you are only allowed one set of choices, and that's some choices that we seemed to like centuries ago and haven't thought much about since, right? Here's a line from the Way of Mastery that I really like now. We begin now the way of the heart. It's time to step into the willingness to don the mantle of one committed to healing every obstacle to the presence of love that may yet remain secretly hidden in the depth of that part of your mind that would struggle to be separate from God. And so that's the way of heart, of the heart, right, in this Way of Mastery section. So move closer to God and get rid of this illusion of separateness. And how do you do that? Well, it's on the back of love, right? A word that maybe no court reporter in the United States has ever had to write, right? While they were listening in a courtroom. Wouldn't that be interesting to see how often?
Oh, look, I'd love to have that argument. Now,
wouldn't that be good?
One of our viewers, Elizabeth, had just said that free will is an illusion, and I think from a point of view that on this 3D planet, absolutely, that's the point. The free will is an illusion from the legal systems that says you have freedom, certainty and protection. The law offers you. No, it does not. We know right now we don't have freedom, but you do, I believe, Elizabeth, from the way you think. So I'm free to choose at any moment how I feel about a situation. I choose how I feel. And I think that is my free will. And that's what I believe we were given in this game of life, as free will, subject to whatever is going on around us. What do you think, Bill and Mike?
Well, I think we really do have free will, and whatever the choices are. And the other thing that we have to get past is the idea of death, because that is the ultimate fear of the ego. Yeah. And if you make a choice and that's going to result in your death, from a spiritual standpoint, it doesn't exist. So what? So what? That was the free will choice that you made that took you to the next dimension. Now you've got a great perspective that you didn't have before, but you still have that choice, and that's the free will choice. Now, people would argue there is no free will because of your education, your heredity, your astrology, your numerology, all the things that we talked about. Those are just influences. And you can get past those by recognizing that you're being influenced. Mercury's retrograde, so my communication's not good today. Bunk.
Yeah, I'm a Gemini. I get that.
It happens. So maybe Mercury's retrograde, there's some influences, but you have the ability to say, I'm not going to let that affect me. I'm going to take special attention because I know this Mercury going backwards is going to affect a lot of people, and it's not going to happen to me. I think, yes, you have free will.
Oh, Bill, I got to make you take my neuroscience and the law course. It'll be in September. And you're going to get an F. Just already. Because the neuroscience, if we had 100 neuroscientists on this call, 99 would say we don't have free will from the science of the brain, and the other one would say I don't know. I sure hope we do. So putting it into a spiritual context, I think the free will comes when we decide to come here and what experiences we decide to have. And I believe from my study of regression hypnosis that we decide most of that before we get here. And of course we don't know, what's true. It sure seems like we have free will. Sure seems like the three of us showed up here on time, right? So we don't really have the ultimate understanding, but if it's true that we've kind of decided what our experiences are supposed to be here, and we don't have a lot of control over that, man, I think you got to throw the law out 100%, along with all of our conventional thinking about relationship and so many other areas where this notion that you've decided things before you were born just blows up our whole conception of life.
Yeah, well, that's what this lesson one, if we're circling back to what this lesson is about, absolutely. Nothing that you experience is caused by anything outside of yourself. You experience only the effect of your own choices. And I think it's not the thinking choice, it's the feeling choice. Because it's all, I believe the body is a communication device. And it tells me, it informs me of where I go. And in my teachings and things, it is really reconnecting with the body as your guidance system. And that is, if that feels a little bit negative, I don't go there. I just find something that feels good in the flow, as Bill we were talking about before, in the flow. Being in the flow feels positive, loving. That's all for another session. I feel that we have probably covered this topic really well about the idea of you are being here, you're experiencing only the effects of your own choices, the external influences being, I believe, the legal system and our internal systems. Is anything you two want to say to sort of wrap this up now?
I don't know. The only thing I was eager to say after what Michael said was, yes, we're experiencing our choices, but if it's true that on another level we made some choices about our being here, first being here in the first place, but also the setup, the blueprint of what's going to happen and certain milestones in our lives for our own growth in love, our own growth and experience. We said, I'm going to have this family and these people who are going to be my brothers and sisters, mother and father, have all agreed ahead of time to play those roles for us. Virginia's agreed to play a role as a great friend, Michael too, that we came together, that maybe on another level, we knew we were going to come together and do this. Now, these are choices we're not aware of. It doesn't mean we didn't make the choice on another level. The question is realizing that, again, being responsible means we're together by choice, even if that choice was something I am currently not aware of. It was still a choice I made rather than being the victim of life that's put me in a particular situation. If you're impoverished, it's entirely possible that you chose that environment in order to learn from it, instead of feeling like you're the victim of not being able to make enough money, not be able to put food on your table. It's an experience. It's just an experience. And if you can enjoy it, be in joy with it, that is the lesson learned. That is it.
Yeah, and that brings us full circle, doesn't it, to the notion that, I mean, Virginia's talking flow, you're talking enjoying the experience, immersing yourself in it. You can't love yourself unless you're in the flow. You can't love yourself unless you are accepting and on some level loving the choices that either you made here or some other time. We really don't know, right? And so this whole concept of love again is the start and the end.
Look, I can't agree with you more. Love is of the essence, is what I like to say. Law says time is of the essence, but we are out of time on many levels. But I live out of time. And that's another concept again, but it's in the state of love. It's in the flow, because time is on this planet. But yeah, I'm probably digressing now. But what I want to say, Tessa Manuello says attorneys should all be healers. If not, how can attorneys truly resolve conflict and maintain harmony? 100%, Tessa. That is absolutely the truth of the matter, and that's what we're here to sort of discuss and bring people to this table and say there is an alternative. So many people are looking for it, but they're missing the link. The link is love. The link is going back to love and self-responsibility and moving away from the judgment-based system, in my view. What I want to say before we close out, I'm only talking so much because I'm the host today. Next month, it'll be Bill who's the host, and we're just taking it in turns in each lesson. Is I want to say this discussion today is so much my authentic self, and this is why I say to everybody that's watching this, please be your authentic self. It feels so much better when you are in your own flow. You can then life is so much more enjoyable. So that's from me. I'd like to say thank you all for turning up today. It's been a beautiful discussion with everybody. That was lesson 1. We will be back next month with lesson 2. If you want to read the lesson 2, ask us questions beforehand. I will be posting the link to the broadcast a week prior so that we can, field questions beforehand. Otherwise, we will be happy to see you all next month. Take care of all of you. In love. Bye for now.